Hey everyone, Meinke here from MLive&apos. Joined by Justin Rogers. Just spoke to Jim Caldwell for about 15 minutes after Sunday's debacle. I mean, I still 24 hours later, I'm supposed to be writing stories about what happened, Justin. I'm still at kind of a loss for words. What exactly happened against Arizona? That meltdown, just an embarrassment, really. And
second quarter happened.
Yeah. I keep getting asked. I assume you have as well. Just what's next for the Lions? Where do they go from here? They're 0-5. They're in shambles. They've got a benched starting quarterback. All these kinds of things. What's next for this team? How do they turn it around?
Immediately?
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, you can talk all you want about coaching changes. Not going to solve any immediate problems. They don't have a backup quarterback that's intriguing, so you're going to continue to ride the Stafford train. There's just no obvious personnel changes. You could talk about firing Lombardi all you want. The offense was actually moving the ball well early in that game outside of the turnovers.
More than 400 yards of offense, right?
Well, I'm not counting Dan Orlovsky's 38 passes in the last 7 minutes of the game, but defense has been consistent. Injuries are a problem. Levy, could be out long term. Nada's, out again and always injured. There is nothing. There's nothing they could do short term.
I agree. I think the problems that plague Detroit are systemic. They're rooted deeply in the scheme and the structure of the organization. I think, and I wrote in my column today, I think offensive leadership needs to be addressed. I just don't think it'll be, in terms of the coaching, in terms of Lombardi. I just don't think doing it now is necessarily going to correct issues against Chicago or against Kansas City in a couple of weeks or whatever the case may be. I think it's something that has to be looked at in the offseason. But, We've sat here for 22 games now, Justin, and listened to Joe Lombardi talk about the offense and how good it looks and how close it is and how, these small tweaks and it'll get on track and it's just around the corner and, these things he was saying throughout last year and then into the offseason and now 5 weeks into this year. This is not an anomaly. And it's kind of pissing me off when I hear anomaly from players and from coaches, which we have a few times now, because 22 weeks in the NFL is not an anomaly. Jim Caldwell likes to say he has patience but not a lot of time. 22 games is forever in NFL time, and we still don't see growth from the offense. It's in shambles. Stafford's a mess. The offensive line's a mess. Rushing game is last in the league, and so on and so forth. I think at some point that needs to be addressed. I just don't think doing it this week would fix Chicago, or doing it a couple of weeks would fix it for Green Bay if you did it over the bye week or whatever. The problems are very deep in this team, and I don't know what you can do to fix it in the immediate.
This is my problem with blaming Lombardi. This isn't Jim Schwartz and Scott Linehan, where Jim Schwartz was a defensive coach and he kind of was letting Linehan go and construct the offense on his own and having input but minimal expertise in the topic. Jim Caldwell is equally, if not more, culpable. He hired Lombardi. He hand-selected him based on the scheme he was bringing. He's helped craft that scheme. He helped craft the playbook. He crafts the game plan with Lombardi. And, yeah, Lombardi calls the plays on Sundays, and that still filters through Caldwell. He can object or change any playing call at any time. We don't know how often he does it. He never wants to talk about stuff like that, but Jim Caldwell is equally culpable in these offensive failures, in Stafford's regression, in receivers not getting open, in the offensive line failing. But nothing they can change now, fix it now. That's an end of the season discussion. And yeah, if it continues on its track, I don't see this team winning 9 of their last 11 games. This is going down the toilet fast. And at the end of the season, I don't think you can stay the course. I think there has to be serious overhaul at multiple levels: roster, coaches, front office.
I agree, because it's clearly not working. I think part of it is schematic, as I had just talked about. I think part of it is the roster. I like, and I've written this before, I like some of the things that Meinke has done in the past couple of years with the free agency, and he's got a couple of good draft picks and stuff. He just hasn't done it consistently enough.
Right.
And then now you see the holes in the roster, and as soon as you start suffering injuries or whatever the case may be, or you have guys not perform to expectations, say, in the offensive line, then you got serious issues. And that's where the Lions are. With Caldwell, to your point about Caldwell, I find him most culpable for his hiring of Lombardi more than anything else. Because I think, and maybe we differ here, I think he tries to remain hands-off to a degree with the offense. I think he's very hands-on with Stafford in particular. But when it comes to the play calling and the game plan, I think that's Lombardi's deal more so than not. And he took a chance on when Caldwell was hired. He took a chance on 2 first-time coordinators. There's always a risk there. When you're hiring a coordinator, do you want a guy who's experienced and done it before, but maybe he's a retread, or do you want to hire a new guy who's an up-and-comer and has a new way of thinking or a new way of doing things? And he went with the new guys, and that's fine. And it worked out with Terrell Austin to great success last year. It has not worked out with Lombardi, and I fault him for that because this thing is broken. And I believe, and maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid, but I think Caldwell can still make this thing work in Detroit. But he needs new leadership on the offensive side. He needs a new scheme because this thing to me is clearly not working.
Yeah, I do disagree with you. I do think Caldwell's more involved, but I mean, even if he's not involved, I still blame him for not getting more involved. That's his responsibility. Head coach.
We've asked him repeatedly, are you going to get more involved? And he said no to us.
Sure, in the play calling aspect, for sure. Yeah. He did say, though, that I am involved in the game planning. They do that. And I remember I wrote a column, before he made this hires, and I said, hire experience. Mm-hmm. And I was wrong on Terrell Austin. Terrell Austin proved to be pretty good, although the defense is struggling this year with the mounting injuries, but
it's
you
also
still see
holding
flashes.
up. Yeah, but it's holding up an offense that's turning the ball over 6 times. It
was a good hire.
Obvious things, but
it was a good hire. Lombardi has been a disaster. I thought maybe after the hire was announced, I saw the Saints scheme. I thought it was a good scheme. Guess what? Saints are struggling right now, and Matthew Stafford is no Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. I'm stating the obvious here. Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl winner. He didn't do 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns one time. He's put up those kind of numbers season after season after season with high completion percentage, accurate, great pocket presence. Stafford doesn't have those things. He's not an accurate quarterback. He doesn't have great pocket presence. And it's just the perfect storm. We're seeing bad offensive line play, not giving Stafford enough time. It's forcing his decisions, and he's an average to below average decision maker, and the scheme isn't helping him.
Yeah, it's a mess. You're still I think at this point tied to Stafford, and it's interesting. It'll be curious to see how the Lions address that going forward, because you can't just get rid of your quarterback. You can't get rid of your offensive coordinator. You can put different pieces around him. Can the Lions win with Matthew Stafford? I've always been in the camp that they can. He wasn't necessarily a Rodgers or Brady type where he could elevate the play of the guys around him and take them on his back. But I always thought he was good enough to if he had talent around him, he could take the team, to a playoff run. But I don't know. I might be reevaluating that at this point because he's a mess. I wrote on MLive today, statistically speaking, you can easily make a case for him being the worst quarterback in the NFL right now. Statistically speaking, most interceptions, 33rd in QB rating, dead last in PFF, all these things, and it's a lot of factors. It's a confluence of a lot of factors coming into one. I'm not putting it all on Stafford's shoulders, but clearly he's not performing, and I'm not sure if that's an issue that can be addressed in the immediate.
Yeah, and he also has the worst run game in the league, and I think that puts an undue amount of strain on him, and so I think it's tough to separate how poorly he's playing from how poorly the Lions can run the ball. If they can't run the ball at all, and they're always behind the chains and letting defenses, we talk about predictability all we want. You're predictable when you're in 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 7. It's a lot easier for defenses to scheme against that, and it's making Stafford look way worse than he is, although he's not looking very good. Without that factors.
The lack of the running game and playing from behind for all but basically 2 minutes and some change since week 1 means the Lions are passing a ton, and Stafford has been pressured more than any quarterback in the NFL besides Russell Wilson. So you tandem that with the lack of a running game. And the problems are understandable, but how you fix them, I don't think anyone understands that at this point.
70 passes yesterday.
It's crazy. It's an NFL record, right?
University of Houston.
I believe that's a record for a regulation game. For Dustin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We are MLive. Keep it right here.